Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're doing something quite special. We're focusing on the journey of one individual, Viswanathan.
That's right. And his life is really this incredible intersection, isn't it, between two, well, massive spiritual currents.
Exactly. You have Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharishi, the path of self-inquiry, and then you have the ancient Vedic tradition through the acharyas of Kanchi, Kamakoti Pitam.
And our mission today really is to see how divine grace, how spiritual teaching isn't generic. It's almost perfectly tailor-made for each person.
Right. We're going to use his specific family stories, his personal experiences. Some are quite surprising, actually, to see this in action.
Yeah, and the source material is rich with these very personal, sometimes funny, sometimes profound moments. It really shows grace operating on the ground level.
And for you listening, especially if you identify as the learner, this is gold. It moves past just theory.
Totally. It's like seeing these concepts, grace, inquiry, tradition, play out in a real human life, step by step. From his family's deep roots with Ramana.
All the way up to, well, a pretty shocking modern-day crisis, and how that grace showed up even there. So let's start at the beginning, with the family's connection to Bhagavan.
Okay, so this connection to Ramana Maharishi, it's not just a casual thing. It goes way back deep into the seeker's family line, specifically on his mother's side.
Right, his mother's uncle was Pachandi, also known as Talagiri. And he wasn't just a devotee, he was, well, a significant figure around Bhagavan.
Absolutely. We're talking about the very early days, the Virupaksha cave period.
Yeah.
Pachandi spent a lot of time with Bhagavan in those, quite austere settings.
And there's this one story, it's just perfect. It tells you so much about Bhagavan, his detachment, but also his incredible care for others.
Ah, the blanket swap.
Yeah, exactly. So it's cold. Bhagavan's just got this thin, worn cloth. And a wealthy devotee from North India sees this, feels sorry for him maybe, and offers a brand new, expensive blanket.
The kind of thing anyone would gratefully accept, especially in the cold, right? But Bhagavan, nope.
Not at all. He immediately says, give the new, expensive blanket to Pachandi to Talagiri.
And give the old worn cloth back to me.
Wow. Just like that. It's such a clear message, isn't it? Prioritizing the devotee's comfort, rejecting any attachment to the new thing.
Exactly. It wasn't just a nice gesture, it was a teaching in action. And Pachandi or Talagiri was deeply embedded in that community.
So much so that there's still a Talagiri Street in Tiruvannamalai, named after his estate. This family was really there at the foundation.
Yeah, the sources mention him, Pachandi Pandi as he was known then, and another relative, Ranganatha. They were involved in practical stuff, like cooking.
Even back in the Virupaksha days.
Yes, during those very early, simple times. And their devotion went further. They sponsored the second Kala Puja, a special worship, for Sri Arunasaswada every year during Mahasivaratri.
So this deep family connection meant the spiritual ground was already fertile, long before our seeker was even born. Grace was already flowing in the family.
Definitely. And you feel that intensity around the time of Bhagavan's Mahanirvana, his passing. Think about the grandmother, Lakshmi Ammal.
Ah, the dream. She was in Trichy, right? April 13th or 14th, 1950.
That very night, she had this terrifying dream. Bhagavan's photo falls, the glass shatters.
Which, in that culture, is a huge, unmistakable bad omen.
Absolutely. She apparently felt this incredible urgency, this dread, packed up immediately and just rushed to Tiruvannamalai with her brother.
Only to arrive just after he had passed.
Yeah, the timing is heartbreaking. She got there and the place was already full of mourners. But her reaction, that immediate rush, it shows you Bhagavan wasn't some distant teacher for them. He was central.
A living presence whose departure was a personal blow. And the seeker's own mother had a direct experience too, didn't she?
Yes, a very profound one. When she was just 7 years old, because of the family connection, she got to sit right at the front in the old hall during darshan.
And that memory stayed with her.
For her entire life. She passed away still remembering it vividly. She said Bhagavan looked right at her.
And what struck her?
The brightness. The sheer unbelievable brightness of his eye. For a 7-year-old, that wasn't philosophy. It was just a direct transmission. Energy, grace. It anchored her connection.
It's like the grace was being passed down, setting the stage. Which leads beautifully into that other famous family story, the one with the sweets.
Ah, yes, the 2 Jangri incident. It's such a charming story, and it really highlights Bhagavan's, well, his omniscience, but with this gentle humor.
So the context is, the grandmother and mother are in Tiruvannamalai again, this time to finalize the marriage of Pachandi's daughter.
Right. And Rukmani, Pachani's wife, offers Bhagavan some sweets jangri, those orange sort of pretzel-shaped fried sweets, for his blessing on the marriage.
And the key detail is that Bhagavan usually only ever took one sweet when offered anything. Moderation, non-indulgence, that was his way.
But this time, no hesitation. He takes 2 jangris.
Two, and then he says something cryptic,
He just says this is for 2 marriages.
which must have completely baffled them.
Mhm.
They were only there for one wedding, the one they were arranging right then.
Exactly. The second marriage wasn't even public knowledge among the family members present there. It was all very confusing.
Until later.
Until later, back in Trichy, the grandmother casually reveals that the seeker's mother's marriage, the very mother who saw him take the 2 jangris, that marriage had also just been finalized.
Wow. So Bhagavan knew. He just knew. Operating outside of linear time, confirmed by 2 pieces of sweet.
It's perfect, isn't it? Precise, humorous, using something totally mundane, and it sets the scene perfectly for how Grace would start working for the seeker himself spontaneously, often through the tiniest, most unexpected details.
Okay, so from that deep family foundation, we move to the seeker's own direct experiences. And this is where you really see that idea of the teaching being perfectly scaled. It starts incredibly early.
Yeah, around 6 years old, this is like 1957, 58, in Bangalore. And it wasn't triggered by a book or anything spiritual?
No, it was something purely physical, almost physiological, happening in that state between deep sleep and waking up.
He described waking up completely confused about his body's orientation in the room.
Like, which way am I pointing? Head here, feet there, that kind of thing.
Exactly. He knew the body had a position, a place in the room, but the eye experiencing the confusion, it didn't seem to have a fixed location. It was just aware.
And from that confusion came this insight.
A really powerful, spontaneous inference. If I was the body, this confusion couldn't happen.
Think about that for a 6-year-old. That's basically the core teaching of Atma Vichara, I am not the body, delivered naturally, without any external instruction.
It's perfectly tailored, an intellectual puzzle arising from a physical sensation for a young mind already inclined towards observation. It's Bhagavan's grace working subtly.
It really sets the tone for a life focused on internal inquiry, doesn't it? And this inner questioning bubbles along until that major moment a few years later.
The chemistry lab incident, around 1963, so he's maybe 13 or 14.
He's doing a standard high school experiment, right? Testing for iodine using starch. Should be simple.
Should have worked first time, but it just kept failing over and over. He's getting frustrated, annoyed.
And he's walking down the school steps, probably just thinking about this failed experiment.
When bam, out of nowhere, the question, who am I, just flashes into his mind.
You said he was completely stunned by it. He'd never encountered the question before, didn't know it was even a possible question to ask.
And in that instant, everything just stopped. His whole world, his thoughts, the external reality, just a complete standstill. His first real taste of that deep silence, triggered by the question itself.
Delivered years before he formally knew about Bhagavan's teaching on it. It's like a calling card directly from Ramana.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How grace can use something as mundane as a failed science experiment. It suggests the inner readiness is key, and the trigger can be anything.
And then comes the confirmation, the convergence. A year later, 1964, he's in Trichy.
And his grandmother gives him a book, The Golden Jubilee Souvenir of Ramanasrama.
He opens it up, maybe just flicking through.
And there's Bhagavan, asking the very same question. Who am I?
The shock must have been incredible. After a year of carrying this strange internal question, feeling maybe a bit weird or isolated.
His first reaction apparently was quite funny. With that sort of teenage intensity, he thought, he is as mad as me.
Because he felt mad wrestling with this question that seemed so out of step with everyday life. And here's this sage confirming the same madness.
Exactly. It was validation, but also this sense of shared, profound oddity.
But the layer of divine humor here, the part that took decades to fully appreciate, it goes back to the science experiment.
Oh, this is brilliant. The chemical he was testing for, the one that failed and sparked the question. Iodine.
Chemical symbol. Chuckles. It's almost too perfect.
It really is. The whole sequence, the failure, the frustration, the I chemical, the who am I question all woven together. He said it took him over 50 years to really see that cosmic joke, that level of detailed orchestration.
It shows the guru's plan is working on levels we just don't perceive in the moment. And he saw parallels elsewhere, too.
Yeah, he mentioned the poet Tennyson. Alfred Lord Tennyson described getting into a very strange state just by repeating his own name over and over.
Interesting. How does that connect?
Well, it's another way of turning inward, isn't it? Repeating the name dissolves the identification with it for a moment, creates a gap. a silence. It's like a variation on the theme. Another subtle method provided by Grace, replacing maybe a traditional mantra or formal inquiry for that person in that moment.
So the core principle is that inward turn, and Grace finds the method that suits the individual's makeup. Okay, so Ramana Maharishi provides this radical, direct path. But the seeker's journey wasn't solely defined by that. The Kanchi acharyas, especially Mahaperiyava and later Periyava, played a huge role.
Absolutely. This is where you see the tailor-made approach incorporating the structure and wisdom of the Vedic tradition alongside the direct inquiry. It's a beautiful synthesis.
It starts with another really striking story about death, this time his Trichy grandfather.
Yes, and Mahaperiyava's, well, almost uncanny insight into it. Apparently, every time the family visited Mahaperiyava, the senior acharya, he would consistently ask them about the grandfather's death. Not just casually, but asking for the details.
He kept probing. Why was he so interested?
It becomes clear later. First, the basic fact. The grandfather passed away while he was engaged in Pashapadam.
Which is the deep, disciplined study of the commentaries on major philosophical texts, right? So a very high-level spiritual and intellectual practice.
Exactly. Signifies a life dedicated to that traditional path. But Mahaperiyava knew more. Much later, during a camp in a place called Karnal, he revealed the stunning detail.
What was it?
He knew the exact text the grandfather was reading at the moment of death. It was the Moksha Sargam, the section on liberation from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad.
Wow, and not just the section.
Mahaperiyava specified he died precisely when the text was discussing the very question of how the soul leaves the body at death.
Exhales. Extraordinary. To die while contemplating the mechanics of liberation, perfectly timed with your own soul's departure.
It's almost unbelievable. Mahaperiyava himself said, even sannyasis, meaning renunciates, cannot get that kind of death. It was seen as a sign of immense spiritual attainment, achieved through that traditional Vedic study.
And hearing about this Pashapadam later from a pundit at a camp, that sparked something in the seeker.
Yes, it created this deep, intense, but totally unexpressed longing, a pull towards that traditional Vedic way of life. He never told anyone, but the seed was planted. Grace was already working on fulfilling that unspoken desire.
Which leads him to wanting solitude, wanting to renounce the world almost.
Exactly. That inner pull grew so strong that he actually built himself a small, temporary hut near Bhairathi village outside Bangalore. He was serious about breaking away from studies, from normal life.
And the village leader, the Gauda, he even suggested a more solitary spot.
Yeah, apparently seeing his intensity, the Gauda suggested he move into an underground Shiva temple nearby for even deeper seclusion.
So he's at this crossroads, renunciation or what? And he decides he needs guidance.
Right. He knew his parents wouldn't understand. So he decides to approach Pudu Periyava, Jayendra Saraswati Swami, the junior acharya at the time, who was camping near Madurai.
But he was afraid, wasn't he? Afraid of what Pudu Periyava might say.
Genuinely fearful. He thought, here's this figurehead of tradition. He's just going to tell me to go back to college, get a job, forget this renunciation nonsense. He expected his dream to be crushed.
The response was?
Completely unexpected. A true upadesam, a specific personal instruction. Pudu Periyava didn't say go back to studies. He said, go to Tiruvannamalai. Listen to Bhagavata Shravanam, the reading of the Bhagavata Purana, for 1 full year.
Okay.
Then, after that year of devotional practice, Pudu Periyava told him, you can settle down in Sirumalai. He even described Sirumalai as the most beautiful solitary place he'd ever seen on his tours.
So it wasn't a no to solitude, but a yes guided through devotion first.
Precisely. It perfectly combined the path of devotion with the path of asceticism. The seeker was apparently over the moon, totally relieved. It showed that Kanchi Grace was working with his deepest needs, not against them.
Amazing. And this leads him to actually joining the Acharya's travels.
Yes. There's a detail about him having a beloved cow and calf, and when the cow died, that sort of severed his last major attachment to his old life. He tried to get accommodation at the Matam in Tiruvannamalai initially to follow the instruction.
Yeah.
He was turned down. He admits he probably looked quite crazy showing up with a big trunk full of Ramana books. So plan B.
He finds out Pudu Periyava is on the move, heading for Kaladi on Yatra, a traveling pilgrimage.
And he just joins, spontaneously decides to follow the entourage. This led to months on the road with Pudu Periyava. This is the late 1970s.
And even with all the crowds and the busy schedule of a Kanchi Acharya back then.
Pudu Periyava made time for him personally, gave him separate lessons. That's the tailor-made aspect again. It wasn't just general blessings.
And the image of learning at Maboda,
in the cabin of a boat. While crossing a river or backwater somewhere, Pudupariyaba teaching Shankara's knowledge of the self in that intimate, unconventional setting. It's a powerful symbol of personal grace amidst the chaos.
And he ensured the seeker got the deep learning he craved too.
Yes. When they were in Trivandrum, Pudupariyaba personally arranged for him to study Vivekachudamani, Shankara's crust jewel of discrimination, with the head of the Sanskrit department at the local university.
Without him having to formally enroll or go back to the academic grind he wanted to leave.
Exactly. Pure compassion and insight, making sure that deep intellectual and traditional thirst was met. It shows this beautiful synergy, Ramana providing the direct experience, Kanchi providing the structured knowledge and traditional framework. Both perfectly timed.
So his life wasn't just about receiving teachings, but the way he lived. His seeking itself became a source of insight, like his time in that hut near Bhairathi village.
Right. Even that brief period was significant. He built it quickly, just using local stuff. And while he was there, sitting, maybe reading Ramana.
He was reading Ramana's talks, wasn't he? On a deer skin the god had given him.
Yes, and Ramana uses that specific analogy talks about the wasp and the worm.
Explain that analogy again.
Well, the idea is a wasp catches a worm, stings it maybe, puts it inside a little mud structure, a brahar, seals it up. The worm inside constantly contemplates the wasp out of fear or focus. And eventually it doesn't emerge as a worm, but transforms and flies out as a wasp or bee. It illustrates transformation through intense focus or meditation.
Okay. And while he's reading that exact passage,
He looks up and sees it happening right in front of him. A wasp, a worm, the mud casing being built and sealed.
no way.
Yes. He watched that little mud structure for weeks, maybe a month or two, he said, and then eventually a bee flew out.
That's incredible. It's like the teaching literally manifesting physically right before his eyes.
A spontaneous, undeniable validation. Grace wasn't just internal, it was showing him the cosmic principles described in the books were operating right there, in the natural world around him, a living science lesson.
And his lifestyle involved a lot of walking, didn't it? He called it rambling.
Yeah, he was specific about that. Not structured trekking, just wandering, long distances, carrying his few belongings, rice, dal, maybe a pot bundled in a dhoti, like a sling. Dhobi style, he called it.
Where did he walk?
All over. Kanakapura, Mekadatu, through the forests, Bandipur in Karnataka, Mudumalai in Tamil Nadu, eventually making his way to Kaladi, Shankara's birthplace. These were serious journeys on foot.
And the most pivotal moment during these travels seems to have been in the Himalayas.
Ah, yes, a place he had apparently dreamt of visiting for years. He finally gets there near Gangotri. He's sitting, looking at this magnificent snow-covered peak.
Just soaking it in.
Well, sort of. Interestingly, his first reaction was confusion. He actually mistook the vast white peak for a granite quarry. His mind couldn't quite process the scale or the reality of it initially.
Okay.
So he's sitting there, finally achieving this lifelong dream, trying to just enjoy the incredible view, and then the inner prompt comes.
What did it say?
Simple, direct. Who is looking at the peak?
Wow. Even then, even in that moment of peak, pun intended, external experience.
Bhagavan intervenes. Grace doesn't let him just rest in the external beauty. It instantly pulls the attention back inward, a constant reminder. The journey isn't about seeing sights, it's about seeing the seer.
That's powerful. And Grace also seemed to orchestrate some amazing encounters on his travels.
Oh, definitely. The Kanchi Yatra period especially, like the story of the young man from Chittor.
The one who worked at the nutrient factory.
That's him. During a camp there, this young guy was adamant about quitting his job, going to the Himalayas, becoming a renunciate. The seeker apparently said something casual, maybe half joking, like, okay, I'll see you there.
And years later,
The seeker is way up near Gamuk, the source of the Ganges. He's coming back down towards Gangotri, and someone points out a figure calling to him from a distance.
don't tell me.
It was him, the same young man, but now completely transformed. Long hair, beard, living like an adhuta, a kind of wandering ascetic in a remote cave. Totally unrecognizable.
That's extraordinary. Like his casual remark became a prophecy fulfilled by Grace.
Exactly. Across all that time and distance, in the middle of nowhere, it shows these connections, these threads, woven by something beyond ordinary cause and effect.
And there was that funny incident with geography, too, near Kanchipuram.
Oh, the Orikai story. Yes. He wanted to visit someone, Metter Rajagopal, late one evening, but people told him, no, it's too late, too far now. He was disappointed, got in a taxi to go back.
And the taxi driver,
Takes a route that shouldn't have gone anywhere near Orikai, the place Rajagopal was staying. But somehow, through a wrong turn, a detour, who knows, they ended up driving right past the signpost for Orikai, so he could make the visit after all.
Instantly possible. It's like divine intervention manipulating the GPS, you know?
Yeah.
Overriding logistics just to make the meeting happen. Gentle humor again.
And we should also mention the explicit offers of solitude he got from Pudu Peryava. It wasn't just the instruction about Sirumalai. No, there were direct offers too. During that Sander camp in Karnataka, late 70s, they found this beautiful little Shiva shrine near the Tunga River. It had a linga made entirely of Rudraksha beads.
Very special.
And Pudu Peryava, seeing the seeker's deep yearning for that life, seriously turned to him and asked, "Would you like to stay here?"
Just like that. Offering him the shrine.
Essentially, yes. A similar thing happened at Sri Sailam. Pudu Peryava made arrangements for him to stay with a local family there, and he did stay for about a month.
So the Acharya wasn't just guiding, he was actively trying to facilitate that path of renunciation and solitude the seeker longed for.
Exactly. Even though the seeker's core path ultimately remained Ramana's inquiry, the Kanchi grace fully supported and validated that ascetic pull within him. It honored all parts of his tailor-made journey.
So weaving all these threads together, the family legacy, the direct Ramana experiences, the Kanchi guidance, the seeking lifestyle, we arrive at his core philosophical takeaway, developed over decades.
Yeah, and it's quite provocative, actually. It's his argument against the need for propagation.
Against spreading the teaching.
Yeah.
That sounds counterintuitive for someone so devoted.
It does, but it comes from over 70 years of lived experience. His conviction is that actively propagating Bhagavan's teaching is, in his words, totally unnecessary.
Why does he believe that?
Because from his perspective, Bhagavan himself is doing a fantastic job, operating beyond time and space, reaching whoever needs to be reached perfectly, naturally. He feels the whole modern push to market or spread the teaching misses the point.
It undermines the power of grace itself.
Precisely. Grace doesn't need marketing departments. And he gives that incredible example to back it up.
The lady in Jerusalem.
Yes, someone with zero connection to India, Ramana, Hinduism, nothing. One day, she opens her mailbox. Inside, completely unsolicited, is a copy of Ramana's booklet, Who Am I?
Just appeared there.
Just appeared.
Yeah.
And she later said that for the next 17 years, she read no other spiritual book. That one booklet was enough. It met her need perfectly.
That's grace operating mysteriously, isn't it? Bypassing all the usual channels.
Exactly. No need for organizations, websites, missionaries. It supports his whole thesis. The teaching finds the seeker when the seeker is ready, and it's delivered in precisely the right form.
Like the body orientation confusion for him as a child, or the eye chemical symbol humor.
Or the Who Am I flash itself, all perfectly scaled, perfectly timed by an unseen intelligence. The teaching finds you. You don't necessarily need someone to aggressively push it on you.
He also made a distinction between the different versions of Who Am I, didn't he?
Yes, he found the question and answer version, which came about through devotee questions and might have incorporated some Raja Yoga ideas at the time, less compelling initially.
Right.
Maybe it felt a bit mediated, less direct.
Wow.
But the essay version, specifically the 1942 edition, he found in that Golden Jubilee souvenir, that one went straight to the heart.
Because it was Bhagavan's own distilled words.
Exactly. Concise, pure instruction without the back and forth of Q&A. For him, that was the most potent form. It reinforces the idea of sticking to the core, simple personal inquiry.
And the ultimate proof, the absolute confirmation that this connection to Bhagavan is real, practical, and protective came very recently. Through something awful.
Yeah, a really devastating event. A complex, modern cybercrime scam.
What happened?
It led to what he called a digital arrest. Basically being manipulated and isolated online for 12 days. And the end result was catastrophic financially. He lost everything. All his banking, all his investments, gone.
Oh my God, that's unimaginable. A lifetime security wiped out.
Total material ruin. But here's the miracle. Here's the manifestation of grace.
His reaction.
Despite the absolute disaster, the uncertainty, the loss, he felt, in his own words, complete peace. Absolutely no ruffle at all internally.
While facing financial devastation.
Complete peace, the lifetime of practice, the connection to Bhagavan, the inquiry. It wasn't just philosophy. It was a functional shield against psychological distress, even in the face of utter calamity. That's the real protection.
That is truly profound. And the criminal's reaction?
This is maybe the most astonishing part. The person running the scam, demanding money, orchestrating the whole thing, they apparently became confused. maybe even unnerved by the seeker's unshakable calm.
Confused by his peace.
So much so that the criminal actually felt compelled to give him a warning. Told him he should go to the police the next day and report it.
The scammer told him to go to the police.
Yes, it's bizarre. It shows, firstly, the spiritual connection is live, active, and it protects your inner state, which is all that truly matters. And secondly, the power of that inner peace was so palpable, it actually disrupted the malice directed at him.
It changed the dynamic completely. Maintaining peace when everything material collapses. That's the ultimate test, isn't it?
It's the ultimate validation. Grace isn't just about nice feelings during meditation. It works right down in the trenches of life during the worst possible moments. It's deeply personal, deeply practical. Hashtag tag outro stream.
What a journey. It really is a compelling synthesis, isn't it? You see a life shaped by the deep tradition and authority of Kanchi, working hand in hand with the radical, immediate, and incredibly personal path of Ramana Maharishi.
Right. And it all culminates in seeing grace operate not just in the quiet moments of seeking, but demonstrably, powerfully in the midst of modern-day catastrophe.
The core message that comes through so strongly from his life is that the spiritual path isn't some kind of one-size-fits-all program.
Not at all. It's utterly tailor-made, meticulously woven from the threads of family history, individual temperament, intellectual needs, and spiritual ripeness. Those two great streams, Ramana's direct inquiry, Kanchi's traditional guidance, they weren't in conflict. They were in perfect concert for him.
So as you listen to this, navigating your own path, what's the takeaway? If grace truly operates like this across time, space, using unexpected triggers, even finding people in Jerusalem mailboxes.
And if active propagation isn't strictly necessary because the teaching finds the seeker when they're ready,
Then it really prompts a final thought, doesn't it? What small thing happened in your life today? A fleeting thought, a question that popped up, maybe a frustrating little failure that made you pause.
could that seemingly random event, that tiny internal shift, already be part of an unseen orchestration? A nudge from a force you haven't recognized yet?
Something to ponder. Because if this story shows anything, it's that your path, too, is already being perfectly designed, tailor-made, just for you.